I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. I do want to make sure we thank the NFLPA for helping us out, as well as LASED for hosting us in this awesome venue, obviously. So I'm going to give you a quick background and bio on Marianne, and then we'll get her and Ian up here and let them run the show. So Marianne Radley is the Chief Brand Officer for Pizza Hut US. In this role, she oversees the brand's advertising, digital marketing, consumer insights, culinary, and quality assurance team. So basically everything. And works closely with the Pizza Hut leadership team to set the business vision and strategy. Before joining Pizza Hut, Marianne served as the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing at Monster Beverage in Corona. There, she was responsible for all marketing, sponsorships, and activation efforts for the company and helped successfully launch Monster Energy Drink to 40 new countries over a period of 20 months. Prior to that, Marianne spent 15 years at AB InBev, serving in roles ranging from field sales, sales promotion, new product innovation, and brand management. She was the first woman to be named a Budweiser brand manager in the company's history and went on to develop key experiential marketing platforms and initiatives for the brand. So obviously a really, really good person, and I think you guys are going to get a lot from her. So I'm super excited to welcome up Marianne and Ian.
Comfortable chairs. Nice.
Well, thank you everyone for staying awake through lunch and that big tacos. Marianne, thank you for joining us as well.
Glad to be here. Thanks for that. Was quite the intro. That's like half the presentation.
I hope so. We'll get everybody a little early. Let's just hop right into it. Give me a little bit of sense of Pizza Hut's approach to sports partnerships. What have you looked for in the past? Maybe you can lay out for us a little bit of the portfolio of assets you have right now.
Sure. I mean, I think when you look at we jumped in with the NFL last year, so that was exciting. We have, for our approach, I'll take a step back. Our approach with sports is really, when you look at sports and pizza, it goes hand in hand. I mean, when you're watching a game at home, you're ordering a pizza, maybe drinking a beer, maybe eating some wings. So it just really is an easy fit. So as we were looking at it with our brand, and we've been around for 61 years, and the category is relevant, but how do we make our brand more relevant? How do we make it easier for customers to get to, and how do we make it more distinct? And that's kind of the platform I use and our team uses, is creating a strong brand. Really a red dynamic, relevant, easy, distinct. So our entry into sports was about how do we connect with fans, particularly with NFL when we signed the deal, is we wanted to bring the fan experience closer to people at home. I mean, every weekend you have hundreds of thousands of people in the stands, but there's millions more watching at home. So how do we connect with them in a very authentic and real way? And then also for us, we've been very engaged in youth sports for a long time. We have a very big literacy project, which is not necessarily tied to sports, but our commitment to youth and youth education. We've been doing the first book and literacy project for, 40 years. I mean, does anyone in here where you read 5 books, you get a free personal pan pizza? Anyone? Yes. Book It program. You got your Book It? Yeah. So we've always been connected from the community with our Book It program, and so we tied in with the NCAA, and that was just a natural move for us as a brand. So when you're thinking about where our core is and what we do, we are about family, we're about togetherness, we're about fun, and we're about sports. And so it was natural. I mean, it was a great opportunity for us to jump in with the NFL last year. We announced the deal, and it was 6 weeks later we had the draft. So it was definitely I came on in February. So it was February of last year I came on board, and we announced the deal in April, and then we had 6 weeks to execute the NFL draft. And Gina, we spent a lot of time up in New York meeting with the NFL team and the NFLPA, and they were great partners, and it was good. And it was really, how do we activate in a way that's authentic? We're not about, we don't want to slap a logo. And we don't have a brand awareness issue. I mean, Pizza Hut has a 98.6% brand awareness around the world, actually. So that's not a brand awareness issue, it's a brand relevancy issue. So that's really our tie with sports, is to become more relevant.
So you mentioned there that 6 weeks or so span before the draft. I mean, it's talk about like feet to the fire right there. How did you even?
No sleep, a lot of Monster. Yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah, it was good.
Pizza, perfect. At least you weren't hungry, so
yeah,
that's good. But how did you sort of go about that process? I mean, how is that build out when you have that huge event like that, and you really want to make that big splash alongside that?
Yeah, well, I think I have to say, I know we were very fortunate that it was in Dallas. That's our backyard. Our offices are in Plano, so that was very helpful for us. I think if it was in Seattle or in LA, it might have been a little bit more of a challenge. So to set up the infrastructure, our focus was about activation on site to really leave a good impression with people attending. It was a great opportunity for fans to get the draft, and what the NFL has done with the draft over the years has been unbelievable. It has become a cultural event. They have really dialed it up. And if anyone had the opportunity to go to Nashville this year, it was really phenomenal. As much as it was raining, it was so much fun. And but having Dallas, it was, you bring your fans in, they're going to go in, they're going to cheer for the team. It's a moment of hope that even the worst teams have this moment of hope that they're going to be the best team of the season. And we wanted to capture that a little bit, and we wanted to make it exciting for people that are in the parking lot. Either they can't get in or they're going in, that they're having some sort of engagement and some take home with them. So we built out a big activation area. We gave away free pizzas, which is always goes well. We had players come by. You know, a lot of our players came by and had some fan interaction with the players. We created a 360 experience because our big kick was the doorbell dance. So when we see the touchdown dance, and how do we tie football and pizza in with a touchdown dance? It's really when you get your pizza delivered at home, you're kind of doing a doorbell dance that, hey, yeah, my pizza's here, my wings are here, I'm ready to, yeah. So we created a doorbell dance experience there, and just got fans engaged and excited about it. And that's really what our approach is, yeah.
How is that sort of bled in then once you could kind of digest, and pardon the pun, and go into the regular season, go into the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
How do you sort of translate some of that, dive right in mentality to sort of season-long campaign or build up to the Super Bowl in a lot of ways?
Yeah, I think when you go to the relevancy, as we're activating through the year, we wanted to associate ourselves with some teams. So we knew right off we needed some team sponsorships, and we also wanted some player sponsorships and partnerships. So actually our teams, we selected to work with 4 teams, the Rams, the Chargers, so I'm in the right building here, the Rams and the Chargers. We did the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks, and 3 of the 4 teams made it to the postseason, so that was a pretty good track record. Won some money in Vegas on that one. And our players, we looked at players that had the same sort of moral, every player contract you have, there's always a moral clause in it. But we are a family brand, and we're a fun brand, and we really don't need to take ourselves too seriously, but we want to make sure we have players that are authentic and that have that core love for the brand and for the product, and had some sort of memory about Pizza Hut and a great experience. And so, like Todd Gurley, it was just great. He was very connected with his Pizza Hut back home in the Carolinas, and when he goes home, he's always shooting he's shooting videos of him driving through. There's a drive-through at his Pizza Hut, and he picks up a bunch of pizzas and brings it to local kids in the neighborhood. Tyler Lockett with the Seahawks, I mean, he is just such a great human being. He really is just such a great guy, and he's someone who just commits so much to the community. And that's the players that we want to be with. We want to be with good players. It's great if they're good on the field, but it's even better when they're good off the field, and that's what our approach is. And it just fits well with our plan. So for us, it was locking in the teams, locking in some players, and getting content and getting some really relevant and authentic connections with our brand. Yeah.
You have something like the NCAA property versus that. I mean, it has to be obviously a little bit different strategy, just given how each sort of property is structured. Where do you see sort of similarities in certain ways, or maybe you can pulled some of that strategy in, and where is it really differed, where maybe that's let you guys had success in other ways that you couldn't have done against the other one?
Yeah, the similarities, first of all, is the love of the game and sport.
Sure.
I mean, the passion for sports that the fans have and everyone who's attending the events. Where we have a unique kind of entryway with the NCAA, and we do our game day broadcast on Saturday and get in the fan zone. I mean, those college kids are there at 4 in the morning. Actually, some of them are there camping out for college game day. They get there like 7 a.m. on Friday for the college game day broadcast on Saturday. So we're there feeding them pizzas leading up into then. So they're just, I mean, by the time college game day kicks off, they are in this frenzied state that you don't really see up close and personal as much when we're at the NFL games. I mean, it absolutely, you have those frenzied fans, but this is just a younger, they have so much energy. And so our activation with them is we've got to figure out how to connect with them and how to talk with them in a way that they understand. There's a lot of consumers and fans that are maybe 35 and over who remember going to the Pizza Hut restaurant after Little League, or going there for their first date or their birthday parties, and playing Pac-Man. I see you nodding, so I'm hoping you're Pac-Man breadsticks, your little thing with your pan pizza on it. Yeah, I mean, it was the red and white checkered tablecloths. I mean, there's all these great memories. And there's this generation that hasn't had that experience. And we still have 2,500 dine-in restaurants, but a lot of them are in the Midwest, and a lot are in more rural markets. So when you're looking at the coverage of NFL and the overlap there, we really don't have a lot of dine-in restaurants there. So our approach was, how do we get that love of the brand to those customers that are either looking at the game, and then at the college students, it was activation the day of the broadcast, and then bringing our pizza and some of our great excitement around our brand, and even some of our kind of nostalgic equities to them. So, I mean, it's a love of sport is very consistent across both.
Sure.
But for NCAA, though, we just don't do football. We do all of the NCAA sports. So women's lacrosse, swimming, diving, and that just gives us a broader reach. And it's really, there's some of those great celebratory moments that being part of, and just going to some of these, there's sports I've gone to now through this partnership that I'd never gone. I was a college athlete. I never went to some of these events, and then going to them, it was just so great seeing the fervor and the excitement, and then connecting with the families and the parents of some of these athletes. It's just really fun.
Sure. Well, you touched on some of those nostalgic elements, things that people remember about the brand. I mean, you brought back the old logo recently.
Yeah, we did. We just did, yeah.
How does that sort of tie into the sports strategy going forward? Does nostalgia become sort of a larger play in that, do you think?
Yeah, so part of our charge is we're, again, trying to make our brand relevant, easy, and distinct. It's really the distinctiveness is that I'm focused on right now. And when you're looking at a platform, and I'm going to go back to the red, relevant, the pizza category is relevant, and then also being part of a cultural conversation, whether you're engaging through social media, being part of relevant type advertising a bit, that helps you with the relevance. Easy, our technology, your ease of ordering through apps, your digital interaction, your hot, fast, reliable delivery from the restaurant to the door. Gosh, I'm using a lot of industry language. I'm sorry. But making sure that you can get our product easily and it's delivered. And but then distinctiveness really, really focuses on advertising. That is, how do you cut through? I mean, the pizza category is very cluttered. So for distinctiveness, what we did, there's two ways to make your brand distinctive. You can either develop a new asset and equities, or you can look at existing asset and equities. So we decided, let's look at some existing asset and equities. We did working with our agency, which is a phenomenal agency out of Austin, GSD&M. And then also we have an agency out here in California named Collider, who does a lot of insights. We worked with them for about 5 months and digging into what assets do we have as a brand. Because as we're looking through what will people gravitate towards, and we did this, we talked to 3,000 customers. Actually, it was a really fun journey. We went up to Kansas we have a Pizza Hut museum on Wichita State campus. If you haven't seen it, it's where our first Pizza Hut was. Pizza Hut was named Pizza Hut because Dan and the Carney brothers, when they started the restaurant, they had a sign and it could only fit 7 letters. So that's why it was named Pizza Hut. That's a true story. So $600 they started the restaurant, and but that's where our museum is. And we went up there and spent 2 days there just mining through our assets, just looking at these great things that the brand had. And then we went out in front of about 3,000 customers and did qualitative studies with them on what is the position that Pizza Hut has. And what was fed back to us is, you're the original American pizza. We were the first pizza chain in the country. We were the first pizza chain in the country. We were the first product you can order off the internet. So we were the original American original pizza chain, I guess you could say. And it was the classic, iconic logo that looked so unapologetically confident and bold. And what we were being fed back from customers were like, hey, you're the OG of the pizza company. You need to start acting like it. And that boldness and confidence. And I think over the years, we're a Midwest company originally you can't be too boastful. It's within the fabric of our company, I guess. You can't be too boastful, but you can be proud. And so our positioning that we did with bringing back the classic logo in our advertising is just being a more bold and unapologetically confident company. Take more risks, live fearlessly, break some dishes when we don't need to be perfect. Everyone's looking at how do you become and stay clean and polished when we're all under such a microscope with social media and everyone's watching it from a company standpoint. But it's okay to have a little bumps and bruises. And so that's what we encourage our team is, hey, let's take more risks and more chances. And that logo that we just launched out with our Cheesy Bites, just our new window that launched 2 weeks ago, but we're actually going to support all of our NFL advertising and fourth quarter advertising is going to have that classic look. And we've had a lot of great feedback to it. It fits in You look at it, and as a marketer, you're looking like, oh, the brand pop. You can see it on a billboard when you're 50 yards away or half a mile away. But it also just has this really cool kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to take any shit kind of feel to it. I love that look of that logo. So that's the New Yorker in me coming out.
Fair
But
enough.
I love that logo. I'm excited that we were able to bring it back. Our franchisees are excited, and just the feedback we're getting now just from customers who just love seeing that, and so
sure.
glad that we brought it back. Yeah.
Over your career, you've had a chance to work with some brands, some properties that, to your point about Pizza Hut, don't need to fight for relevancy.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of knows it. You maybe worked at some brands that were still sort of challenger brands, emerging brands, or even on products within those companies that were sort of being pushed out there. When you think about how that works in the sports sponsorship landscape, where do you find successes in those areas? How does your strategy sort of switch based on your sort of market position in a way?
Monster Energy, we did not do any above-the-line TV. We did not do any national TV campaigns. If you see a Monster commercial, it's usually for maybe a Monster event coming into market, and it's usually the local promoters there were no TV commercials there. So I then moved to Pizza Hut, where there's so much, the whole system is trained on, you need to have a TV commercial to be successful. Monster Energy, what we did was we tied in closely with athletes, and just tying into that feverish, show up to X Games with a pocket full of cash and say, hey, I'll give you $1,000, you put this M-Claw logo on your helmet, and they did. And that's how we started doing our branding. We'd show up to truck stops and give cases of Monster out to truck drivers, long haul drivers, to get them to just drink the brand and like it and be taking it from state to state when we're first starting out. But it was really knowing what the unlock of the passion behind the sport and just getting loyalty around it. Having an ambassador that is just totally, I'm sorry to say kick ass, but kick ass.
You could say it, it's all right.
And that's really how Monster, all of our marketing was built on tying to that really that passion for the brand. And for us, for the brand, for Monster, it was really tied into when we're looking at extreme sports and the sports that just had a much lower cost of entry, truthfully. I mean, that's why we got into them. It was a lower cost of entry, and it was all about, Mark Hall at the time created just great logo with the M-Claw, and that Monster Claw is just what everyone wanted, and we realized the power of that, and being able to just give some dollars, a T-shirt, and a sticker, and they were part of our army. Go to Pizza Hut, and it's an established brand that's been around, like I said, 61 years, that we're always known for doing these, we were always involved in pop culture in the 80s. I mean, it was, we were in Back to the Future 2. You've got, I mean, we were just, anyone watch Stranger Things? They just showed a Pizza Hut. We didn't pay for that. It was great. They put a Pizza Hut box in there because it fits perfectly with that time. But we were always part of, and we invested heavily in TV. Coming on board in February last year, I have to retrain our system that TV is not the solve. It's not a solve. It's something that we've become used to, and it's like a pacifier, and it shouldn't be. We need to find unique ways to talk to customers, because that's where not all media is consumed on TV. And companies can be very successful without television, Monster being one of them. I think they're a $35 billion cap company right now. So that's, we have to continue to challenge ourselves and challenge our organization on how do we look at the business differently? How do we advertise differently and market differently? How do we talk to customers differently? How do we partner with athletes differently and leagues and partners and teams? And there's got to be a different approach, because it's absolutely evolving from where it was 10 and 15 years ago.
Yeah. Do you think that leagues, teams, other sort of rights holders, I guess in that respect, view it the same way, that they'll let you sort of evolve the partnership so it's also successful for you?
You get a good partnership, and the NFL's been great to work with, and the NFLPA, Gene, I'm not saying that just because you're sitting right there, but you guys have been great partners as well. They're always but it's interesting when you're used to doing business a certain way, when you try to disrupt it a bit, everyone gets uncomfortable. Sure. And as we looked at last year when we announced the deal, and it was 6 weeks to draft, there were a lot of things that we were pushing that may have made people feel a bit uncomfortable. And when if you have to push a little bit too much, and shame on us, sometimes you back off and you don't really fight for it. And if it's worth pushing on, you got to fight for it. So year 2, we're fighting for a lot more, and just not necessarily fighting, but pushing harder and trusting our instinct more. And a lot of what we did, and we had some great player content last year that as we were having kind of discussions with the NFL on how we would love to leverage players, there was definitely a little bit of uncomfortableness on what we wanted to do. And we had a great with Todd Gurley, his bye week, he's at home watching the Minnesota Vikings with his friends, and we were able to go in there with cameras and film. He's ordered a bunch of pizzas and our wings, and it was a truly authentic. It was not staged. We were not saying, now grab the pizza and take a bite. It was him and his buddies
Sure.
hanging out watching the game, and us creating that and getting, kind of not invading a bit in their space, but actually coming into an authentic space and an authentic interaction with our brand is what we want. I think that's what every brand wants. And so we have to keep pushing for that, so that everything isn't so sterile and corporate and polished. Consumers are much smarter now. They want real connections. I mean, they want a brand that's their buddy. And that's what we have to continue to push, is that, hey, we're your friend, we're your challenger, we're your friend, we're your comfort food, we're your social pacifier, perhaps. That's what we have to continue to do. So,
are there other, you mentioned sort of moving away a little bit from TV, obviously things like, I'm sure, these athlete partnerships and doing things in authentic ways. Are there other areas that you see sort of out in the marketing world where maybe you can shift some dollars towards, or shift some focus in a certain area that maybe, not to say will give you the same return, but maybe are emerging, you think, sort of?
Well, not emerging. It's very
Fair enough.
Esports. I mean, everyone talks about esports, and we've got, and we had been involved esports on a very generic way many years ago, where we tied in with video game releases, but now it's just tying into, again, how do you be, you're not a sponsor of a league, you're actually part of the experience. Actually, this year, Ann Hand, who's the CEO of Super League, she and I did a fireside chat together at the IG World up in Chicago, and we're working together on a few things, and it's just how do you integrate with them, not again to slap your logo as an association, but really in an authentic way. So esports, I mean, everyone's engaged in that space. I wouldn't even say that's emerging, but I think there's a lot of opportunity that has not been leveraged from a community, from a youth sports that has not been leveraged the way, and I'm not saying to leverage it to market or capitalize, but to really to help upbring the next generation of players and you want to create a community of good people, right? And so how do you get engaged with them at a local level and youth and support them, and not just from sports, but just with whatever their passions are. I also think there's opportunities we're seeing in marketing from with more dedicated SEM and SEO and really understanding your audience attribution and segmentation, so that media dollars are getting harder to come by. Your TRPs are much more expensive now. Inflation is up. You've got your major networks are shrinking the amount of commercials that they have now in their pods, so they're charging more for a spot. So how do you be smarter with your media dollars? And that's where you have to have a performance marketing team to dig in on where do you spend the dollar and what you're getting your best ROAS on.
Sure. You mentioned sort of esports as a space that maybe there's opportunity, youth sports. So in terms of moving into new partnerships in the sports space, do you think there's still room for Pizza Hut to kind of grow there? Do you think there's more opportunity sort of in the sports that you're already in to sort of,
if there wasn't room for Pizza Hut to grow, I'd be out of a job. So yes, there's plenty of room for Pizza Hut to grow. Yeah, there is, and it's not just for us. We have great wings. I mean, there's a whole other food segment that we haven't even scratched the surface on, and our product innovation of desserts and sides and all. So there's other sales layers that we need to be starting to tackle and start to figure out how to market and message that while integrating with partnerships. But we still have a lot more. We have a few more bites at the apple that we need to be doing with NFL. We have a lot more that we should be doing. We've actually learned a lot coming out of year one. We stubbed our toe on a few things too that we looked at. I think when you come in and you sign some players and you're excited, we had Jared Goff and Todd Gurley making it to the Super Bowl, and it's like, oh my gosh, how do we leverage this sponsorship? And sometimes you put players in a position that they may not be comfortable with, or you put them in a position that may not be authentic to them, and you're asking them. And that's where we had to take a step back in year two and say we need to partner and make sure it's something that is natural to them. Let's think of what they want to do first, and then how do we integrate ourselves with it, as opposed to you have a contract, this is what you have to do. It really has to be something that they want to do and what they're passionate about. And it may not even have to do with football. And you have to listen to that and understand, okay, now how do I parlay that into our brand and it fits in with what they're looking for? Yeah.
How do you go about making sure that there is that authentic connection? I mean, is it just a matter of talking to them, their agents, the PA, so on and so forth?
I don't think it's about talking to them. I think it's about listening. You need to listen. There's a lot, as a sponsor and as a partner, come in and I've learned that over the years is that you tend to talk. Oh, we've got this contract. You've got 4 appearances. You've got certain. And you guys have probably all lived this. You've got 4. And instead, it's, hey, what do you want to get out of this partnership? And I think that's the best way to start a conversation, particularly when you're going into a partnership with a player. What do you want to get out of this? How do you see it? And then look at what are some of your passion points? What do you like? I mean, I said Tyler Lockett, but really he's got such a passion point for community. He's got this great commitment to the homeless. He just delivered a bunch of pizzas to the homeless shelters last week up in the Seattle market. We had nothing to do with that, but it was like something that he's passionate about. Part of what he wanted to do as partners with us is he's like, hey, I'd love to bring a bunch of kids from my foundation down to your Plano office and make pizzas in your office, in your kitchen. Oh my, absolutely, whatever absolutely. I mean, that is just great. So for us, it's listening to them, what they want to do. But at the end of the day, it is, the dollars we spend is representative of our franchisees' dollars. We are representing 130 independent business owners. It's their money that we're spending as we're doing these contracts and these negotiations and deals. So everything at the end of the day either needs to drive traffic and transactions or bring new customers into the brand. And if I said anything different, I'd be misleading the audience. But that really is what I'm held accountable for, is how do we bring new traffic in, how do we bring new customers in, and how do we grow the brand and sales. So it's just trying to figure out how you do that it's a great partnership, and that you're landing on, at the end of the day, it's pizza, and it's fun. And all that other noise can go by the side, but no one throws a sandwich party. They throw pizza parties, right? And the fact that we're now delivering and delivering beer, we've got beer delivery, and we'll be in 1,000 stores, 1,000 restaurants delivering beer by the end of this summer. Talk about hitting on that ease. So you could be, Sunday, turn on the NFL football game, sit down, order your pizza, your wings, and your beer all delivered to your home, a one-stop shop. So we're continuing to look at what other layers, and we're building in late night. We need to be open late night. We started as a restaurant, so we always had restaurant hours. Our stores would close at 10, and the late night business got a bit away from us. So now we need to get into late night game, and those are the other areas that we're looking at. Yeah.
You touched on it a few places on sort of what we'll see, sort of, I guess, year 2-ish in a way, and around NFL, if you want to call it that. Give us a little bit of preview of what the platform will be going into next season. How, what are at least for you some of the highlights, and what can kind of folks that are tuned in get excited for?
Well, coming out of our first year, our highlight Super Bowl, I think we really did a masterful job. I was very happy with our team and what they were able to accomplish for Super Bowl. We had our Super Bowl babies, so that was taking it from really opening up to people that were actually delivering. We were saying, our players over-deliver all the time, and when actually people that are delivering on Super Bowl day, that the first baby born after kickoff that family won free pizza for a year and tickets to next year's Super Bowl. And we were getting a lot of people trying to force their, come on, we were getting all kinds of messages the night before Super Bowl of, I fed my wife sauerkraut and beer and hot peppers, trying to get her, it's like, the Super Bowl babies was great. We also did in the 2 local markets in LA and up in New England. We had pizzas delivered to all the maternity wards that people that were delivering on had babies delivered on Super Bowl. We delivered pizzas to them. So tying back into that family element. And then we had great activation area. I mean, the activation area at our Super Bowl, anyone who saw it, I thought it was the belle of the ball. I thought we had the longest lines. We had the longest wait. Of course, giving out free pizza helps, but then having the 360 dance, and we had a lot of players show up and integrate and interact with the consumers. Going into this year, again, dialing back to it needs to drive traffic and transactions. We are going big on, we've got our packaging that is, we can tie in with the NFL, and we can, as we're looking at our distinctiveness work that we're doing, and kind of do an old school feel. How does that relate to football? How does that old school feel relate to the NFL? And how does that old school football feel and old school look relate to whether NCAA or anything that we're doing? So we're having a lot of fun there. We're doing a lot. We're going to be having some great. I can't announce it yet. My director my director of PR is going to come after me wherever he is, because we are a publicly traded company, so I can't share this.
No worries.
I got another week till I can share it. But we're going to be leveraging a lot more the content of players, the integration with our brand with those players. We've got some terrific things that we're going to be shooting next week that will be airing on TV and on digital and social. And then it's elevating our experiences for the customers, uniquely Pizza Hut experiences that are associated with NFL as well. And then at college and NCAA, you know, you got Thursday night football with NFL, you got Friday night lights with high school, and our pizza restaurants are really tied in with the community. Saturday you got college football, Sunday's NFL, Monday's NFL. So we've got 5 days of the week pretty locked up. How do we make the other days work a little bit harder for us? And we're doing some unique things to kind of build up the runway going into the football viewing weekend. So a lot of really, you know, like I said, player integration, but also taking a look at we need to bring those customers closer to the game and the experience, and we're going to be giving away a lot of opportunities to do that. So
you touched on the Super Bowl activation and that sort of thing. I mean, it seems like leagues, teams, properties are trying to make their events big, or if they're already big, like the Super Bowl, even bigger. From a brand point of view, where have you found success on an on-site activation? What are some things that maybe sort of been forced on you, whether it's footprint or what you can do that maybe you've walked away and said we could have maybe done that a little bit better?
So for Atlanta, with the Super Bowl being Atlanta, we turned Atlanta into Hutlanta, which was good. Then we changed our Pizza Hut restaurants to Pizza Hut to tie in, and we thought that was, that's great, but we could have done a better job at that, I think, of doing it a little bit more broader. You know, there were some select restaurants, so that's very tactical. Select restaurants we did, and I think we could have cast a wider net on that. I think, gosh, I'm saying I think a lot. I know. Going into this year, what we could do better is, you know, I touched on it a little bit earlier, was the authentic connection with the players.
Sure.
But I also want to go a little bit further in the storytelling, and we need to do a better job at storytelling on how our product integrates, and not just our product itself, but the memories of Pizza Hut and their experience with Pizza Hut. You know, there's quite a few NFL players that actually worked at Pizza Hut when they were teenagers. We've got a couple NFL players whose parents worked at Pizza Hut. So there's a lot of really unique stories that our brand has been part of, and I think we need to kind of tap into that a bit. And as we're looking at Super Bowl this year, it's expanding on our activation, and we know what people loved and really gravitated towards, but I'd like to take that experience and make it more mobile to people that can't get down to the Super Bowl, and take it more and leverage it a little bit more during playoffs, and leverage it more during the season. So those are some things that we're going to be doing.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know how bad it is when someone hogs all the pizza, so I want to open the floor to questions. Anybody out there has something from Marianne that they want to ask? Maybe you're right up there.
In terms of expanding the brand, growth opportunities, any opportunities in women's sports?
Yeah, you know, that's a passion point of mine. So we are looking at that. Now in fact, when you look at our engagement and what we do from an activation in NCAA, we skew heavier in support around the female sports, because there is, you know, we need to have a broader stage for women, particularly in professional sports. So we really focus in on the NCAA and supporting women's sports and women's college sports there. But there's always opportunity, and we are trying to push that. Yeah. Thank you. That's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned, thanks. So you mentioned how everything you guys do needs to drive traffic and transactions. So how has the NFL measured and shown that their partnership's doing that for you?
For the first year we looked at I mentioned we don't have a brand awareness issue, but we had a brand relevancy issue. And so we do brand relevancy testing and scoring, and we look at our pre and po. I say pro? Oh, yeah. And we did the relevancy score prior to the deal, and we see where we're falling off. There's actually age segments that we have opportunity. And that's really, as our messaging and our advertising, and even our partnerships and associations with players, it's really to look at some of those age segments that have that following and have that audience. A great example, Juju Smith-Schuster, and he's been a fantastic partner with us. He's got a really broader reach with a younger audience. And that kind of came about. Our association with him was, we wanted to time with him because, first of all, he was dynamic. He was a rising player. He's a great guy. I love his mom. I mean, it's just like there's so many things about him that are great with Juju and his family. And he had a great reach with that younger audience. And as we got more engaged with him, we got him early. We got him early, and then he had an unbelievably successful season, and I was so happy for him. But he that talked to an audience that we may have been missing over the past few years. So it's really important that we kind of align ourselves with those, look at our strategies and the pillars on who we're associating ourselves with, who it talks to. So brand relevancy, and then even as we're looking at in the teams, the team markets, how has our business improved there? And also the store level economics. The store level economics are important to us as well. And how does the traffic and the business of NFL and associating with NFL and the viewership and the increased stage and presence and branding, how is that driving transactions? And that we look at that as well. So yeah, that's how we measure it all. I said it backward, yeah.
So you mentioned the specific club partnerships you had were for the Seahawks, Steelers, Rams, and Chargers. Did you look at all 32 teams, and what made you select those four?
So we selected those four. First, we looked at what was available. There were some teams that already had existing partnerships, some with competitors of ours, or there was a QSR, which is quick serve restaurant, QSR lockup already that they could not deal with us. But what we did look at the teams that were available. We then looked at how did it overlay with the amount of Pizza Hut business we had in Pizza Hut stores. So did it fit a business need? LA is a very big market for us. Southern California is a very big market, and it's also has a little bit of it's got a lot of pressures on it. It's a high wage market, and we're seeing you're going to look at another minimum wage. The margins in Pizza Hut are very thin, and so when you're looking at you've got these constant pressures from an economic and again the store level economic model where your hourly rate is going up to $12, $14, $15 an hour. You're driving a pizza to deliver a pizza 15 minutes away and 15 minutes back to the store. You've just used $7.50 to deliver that $7.99 pizza, right? So we were looking at how do we give a bigger voice to these markets. And then we also looked at teams as far as their following, their fan base. We overlaid it from a national map on who has the highest fan base nationally. And we looked at also tying it in from a media perspective on how big of a media and a DMA they had from a broadcast standpoint. So those were all kind of what we looked at. And then it's who I liked because I'm a Rams fan, so I got to weigh in at the end. Yeah.
There's a new wave of companies putting their logos on jerseys. I read something where the Clippers made $3 million in kind of ad revenue when Kawhi and Paul George went there based off all the jersey swaps on Instagram. Is that something Pizza Hut wants to get into in the future, with it being a risk of teams panning out, and then just why or why not?
Yeah, I mean, I call that the NASCAR approach, right? It looks like a NASCAR uniform. I don't think that's, it's the NFL is really, it's whether or not the league is moving in that direction. For us, we haven't even considered it. We don't even ask for it. It's the NFL is really the one that would lead the charge on what the teams would be allowing and the NFL Owners Association would really be leading the charge on what they can do for the uniforms. So we've never even talked or discussed it. We do like them to maybe wear a Pizza Hut T-shirt when they're off the field, but we haven't talked at all about putting it on their uniforms. Thank you.
Are you seeing a challenge from the fast casual space kind of growing with Blaze Pizza, CPK? And then also kind of the accessibility to them on delivery because of Postmates and Seamless?
Yeah, I think when you look at the aggregators first, I'll talk about the aggregators, Postmates, Grubhub, Uber Eats. That is definitely, I look at it all as share of stomach, and that was we use that term in the beer business, and I use it here too, is that if you're losing share of stomach, that someone's not eating your product, they're eating someone else's. So the aggregators, we invested in, we actually bought part of Grubhub. So Yum, as a corporation, we invested in Grubhub, and it was really because we didn't want to sit and watch what happened. We wanted to get some learnings from it. And for us, it was really about understanding the customer, the need state, and getting into the data. So we have our hand and kind of our finger on the pulse with that. As we're looking at the casuals, the mod pizzas and the Blaze, it's a different customer. For the most part, Pizza Hut, our customer annual average salary for a year is anywhere from $55,000 to $80,000 a year. When you're looking at the aggregators, their average salary of those customers is $125,000. It's two different customer sets. And then for the fast casual dine-in, it's a completely different experience because you're dining. We provide the delivery, and it's a different experience, and it's also a higher income customer. What we have learned though is that we do delivery really well. We have 6,700 stores that we are the best at that last mile delivery. There is no one that does it better than we do. And as people are getting into the delivery game, they really are understanding how truly difficult it is. When you order, we have discussions, hey, we're going to put Pizza Hut on Grubhub. I have a hard time with that because I don't want someone to order pizza and have it delivered between 90 and 110 minutes. That's a challenge. You want them to get it within 30 minutes and have a really good experience with your product. So we do have, we're constantly watching it. We are engaged with Grubhub from an aggregator standpoint. And for me, it's like, listen, there's plenty of space in the category. The category, I say it's cluttered. It is cluttered, but there's plenty of different variations that people want, and we fill a specific need. And we have great quality, and we're continuing to innovate too, to kind of hit those other needs that we may not be talking to at this time. So are they a competitor? Yeah, I mean, everyone who takes if a customer's not coming in my door and they decide to go into someone else's door, then they're definitely a competitor. But we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard and work a little bit harder to make sure we get them back in. So.
Share the last slice. I don't know what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I know as we look at, and I know we've got a video to show too, but
Sure.
Just with us for partnerships and sports marketing, it's just been a really fun ride this past year with the NFL and the past few years with the NCAA. But I think anyone who's in this space knows that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. The biggest thing that I tell our team, and even who I report to, our president of our company, Artie, is you need to be authentic and you have to be real. And it's not just about your brand, it's about your person too. Your word is your word. Don't be a jerk, and that's what. So we have a no assholes policy at Pizza Hut. There really is. I mean, that is a policy at our no assholes policy. And if you're an asshole, we really don't want you to be part of our brand. And gosh, Brett is cringing at me, but I'm sorry, Brett. But it's a no assholes policy, and we like to treat people. And I think anyone, as we're interacting, engaging, we are what you see is what you get, and don't be an asshole. So I think if that my word of wisdom is keep that in mind. Remember your roots and don't be an asshole. Yeah, very thank you. Very classy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, like we said, we have a video
right,
kind of encapsulate everything you just shared. Hopefully,
Yeah.
the asshole policy is not.
Oh yeah.
So-
This is that's great. That was last year. That was 1 year.
Give it up for Marianne.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah.